guys, it's Kira and welcome back to another festive vlog. As we speak, it's currently Saturday the 14th of December, so we are pretty much just 10 days away from Christmas, and I can't believe how quickly this month seems to be going. But despite the fact that Christmas is so soon, I feel like I'm kind of missing a little bit of the festive spirit, and part of me thinks that that is down to the weather, because we started December / finished November with our coldest weather and a very unexpected snowstorm, but since then the rest of December has been pretty gloomy and the weather has just been very mild. Not too cold, not too hot, but it doesn't give you that like cool, crisp December-y vibe when the weather isn't actually that cold. So I feel like I need to inject a bit of festive spirit back into my December, and I've decided that this weekend is going to be all about festive reading. Now I've picked out 4 books that I'm going to try my hardest to read this weekend. We'll see how far I get, but they are all fairly short and or easy reads, which is why I've picked out 4 of them, and I'm hoping that doing a little bit of festive reading will just make me feel that Christmas spirit again. One of these books is a reread and is the shortest book on the list and also a classic, and that is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, because let's be honest, it doesn't really get much more Christmassy than this. Now, I love A Christmas Carol the book, but I will say that I am a Muppets Christmas Carol super fan, so that is my personal favourite edition of A Christmas Carol, then closely followed by the original, the book. But Muppets Christmas Carol is just exceptional. But this is a really short book. It is just under 100 pages, so in reality shouldn't take all that long to get through, and like I say, this is a reread for me. The other 3 books are books that I have not read before, and I'm trying to decide which of them to start first. So first on the pile we have A December to Remember by Jenny Bayliss. This says, years after their idyllic childhood summers in Rowanthorpe village, the 3 North sisters are reunited at the reading of their father's will. Augustus North was loved by all but known by none, not even his daughters, so the 3 are shocked to find a series of hoops through which they must jump to unlock their inheritance, the last thing any of them wants to do. But the sisters desperately need the money and are in no position to rebel against their father's final wishes. Winter at Rowanthorpe stirs up feelings with forgotten flames and makes the sisters confront the lives they've left behind. As old wounds resurface and long-buried secrets come to light, they must learn to work together if they hope to succeed. That sounds like quite fun, because I feel like it's going to have all of the classic makings of like a Hallmark type Christmas movie in book format, so like the forgotten flames and feuds and families coming together, but it also seems as though there might be a little bit more depth to it, and I always enjoy books that have like complicated family relationships, and this feels like it might tap into that, so that sounds like it could be a contender for the first one to pick up. Next up though we have The Christmas Book Club, so very in keeping with the theme of this YouTube channel, of course, and this is by Sarah Morgan, and it says, could this Christmas be the start of a new chapter, a long-lasting friendship? Every year, Erica, Claudia and Anna reunite for their book club holiday. They're bonded by years of friendship and a deep love of books, but there's still so much to keep from each other. A perfect Christmas escape at the cosy Maple Sugar Inn, Hattie specialises in making her guests' dreams come true, but this Christmas all she wants is to survive the festive season. Between running the inn and being a single mother, Hattie is close to the breaking point. The start of a brand new story. Over the course of an eventful week, Hattie sees the friends are carrying round unspoken truth, but nothing prepares her for how deeply her story will become entwined with theirs. Will this Christmas be the end of the book club story or the start of a whole new chapter? So I feel like that one is definitely going to be a little bit more of the like feel-good type of book, but the Maple Sugar Inn does sound exceptional. I would personally love to stay there. And on the subject of maple, this next book, which is A Countdown to Christmas by Joe Thomas, says, Chloe can't wait for Christmas to be over. Her son Reuben is staying with his dad and Chloe is planning to ignore the holidays altogether. Her only festive touch is the advent calendar Reuben left her to help count down the days till he's home again. But a surprise call changes everything. Chloe might be the owner of some unexpected land in Canada. Surely it's a scam, or could it be just the escape she needs right now? Reuben's latest note in the advent calendar tells her to say yes. In a flash, Chloe's new countdown to Christmas involves a log cabin in the middle of a snowy forest, a community that's worried for its future, a gruff lumberjack who gives her butterflies, and a lot of pancakes with maple syrup. So, another mapley story, but I feel like I've got 3, probably quite different, but all equally festive in their own way books. But I think my heart is telling me that a December to remember is the one that I'm going to start with, because I really do think I'm going to enjoy this one. Now, speaking of pancakes with maple syrup, I'm actually just about to head out for a brunch for my stepdad's birthday, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I can get my hands on some pancakes, because right now, after reading so much about maple on the blows of those books, that is all I fancy. But realistically, as long as I get some good food and good coffee, I'll be happy. So heading out for breakfast, and I will catch up with you later on when I'm home. I'm actually out for most of the day because I'm out for breakfast, then I'm meeting my mum at a pub. Never would I normally go to a pub, but I think they do coffee and cake and stuff during the day, and she says that it's meant to be decorated like Narnia, so that should be fun to try and explore. So that is most of my day, but once I'm back, we've no plans this evening as usual, so I'll be getting on with a December to remember, and I will feed back once I've made a start. I'd like to apologise in advance. I feel like I cannot seem to turn the camera on at all at the moment without this little menace unleashing a tirade of chaos upon the world. And right now, poor Oscar seems to be the intended victim. I can just see him like stalking Oscar, who's now hiding under the Christmas tree. Sometimes he enjoys the play, other times he realises that he's like a good 7 years older than Raymond and just wants to take a break, whereas because he's still so young, he just has energy to play non-stop. So Oscar has found a nice little home under the Christmas tree for now, and hopefully that is enough to appease Raymond. But regardless, I don't want to be too dramatic, but I have woken up this morning, it's Sunday, and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm hoping for a largely relaxed Sunday where I can hopefully get some more reading of a December to remember done. I was out most of the day yesterday, so I only ended up starting this book in the evening, but I am on page 136, which is at the start of chapter 17, so I'm quite pleased with the progress that I did manage to make, and I am really enjoying the book. Although I will say at the very beginning, I started to wonder if I'd made the wrong decision with picking this book, because it just felt a little bit unbelievable, and I know a lot of Christmassy books like this do have that feeling of unbelievability, is that even a word? But they feel like over-the-top caricature in the same way that Hallmark films do, but they still have a nice bit of charm to it. But the book didn't actually start at Christmas time, so I feel like then the caricature didn't have the festive charm that you get from a Christmassy book or film. We also start by focusing on the like very eccentric character of the father that passes away and then brings these sisters back together. So although he's like a key character in the fact that he brings the main characters into the forefront of the story, he's not actually a character that we spend a lot of time with. So at the very beginning it just felt a little bit like I wasn't sure what sort of book it was going to be, but then we bring these sisters together, and gradually as I've gotten through the chapters and we've gotten to know them and their stories, I've just become very, very invested in them like reconciling and like coming back together. And then it's also leading up to a winter solstice event, which I'm very excited about, because winter solstice for us will actually be next week, so I'm looking forward to that because it means that the days will start getting lighter again. But what we have basically is this yeah, like I say, eccentric father who was very absent in his children's lives. He has 3 daughters, each from different mothers, and for like 11 months out of the year every year they just grew up separately with their mums, and then for 1 month every summer the 3 sisters came together and spent 4 weeks with their dad in his little like old eccentric village. And I feel like I'm overusing the word eccentric, but alas, that's what I've chosen to say now. So they all come together and they had this really lovely childhood, but then as they came into adulthood and their father became less present in their life and they didn't have to spend this 1 month every year with him and with each other, they also kind of drifted outside of each other's lives as well. And then through his death, he's hoping to kind of bring them back together and allow them to be present in each other's lives in a way that he wasn't able to present in their lives. There's obviously lots and lots of other things going on. The father owned a antiques novelty shop, and therefore that's the main setting of the book, and there's lots of chaos going on as they're trying to uncover this mystery that he's left behind for them. And then there is also a guy who's been brought into the book who happens to be a knitter, which I'm very much enjoying, and I'm glad that there is a little bit of knitting representation in the story. So overall, really enjoying it. Raymond! What do you have to say for yourself? He is just so naughty, so bear with while I reset. Okay, there we go. Maybe slightly wonky, but we are back to standing. I will admit that Raymond is still sniffing the camera very intently, so we may be on the floor again in just a moment, but alas, I'm enjoying this book a lot and I'm hoping to read more of it later on today. First thing this morning, I'm going to try and cycle the illness out of me by going to a spin class and then going for a coffee with my sister, but that is the only plan that I have for the day, so as soon as that is done, I'll be back here by the Christmas tree and doing some more reading. My attempts to spin the sickness out of me have been unsuccessful, so I'm home again and decided that I would cheer myself up with a cosy beverage. This week I've gone for something from Bird and Blend that I've never tried before, which is one of their sticky chai teas. So I've had a lot of their normal teas and they have sticky chais, which are basically like a loose leaf tea, but sweetened and therefore sticky and held together. Bit weird to describe, but it is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a sticky loose leaf tea, and obviously because of that it's sweetened, and then you can either brew it as a normal tea or, as I've done, turn it into a tea latte. And the one that I've gone for is a flavour that I've tried before, but not, as I've said, as one of their sticky chais. So it's their snowball tea, which is one that I have had in the tea advent calendar before, and it is basically a chocolate and coconut combination, and I really like it. When I've had it as the normal tea, it's one that I've definitely enjoyed. So when I saw all of the different flavour combinations for the sticky chai, I thought that I would go for that one because it's got a festive name, Snowball, and I know that it's a flavour that I like. So without further ado, I fear my ability to smell the tea is somewhat compromised by the fact that I'm not well and I feel like I've got a bit of a blocked nose, but I give it my best shot. It does smell basically like a mellow hot chocolate, by which I mean there's a hint of chocolate but not overpoweringly so, and then that is obviously combined with a really lovely sweet coconut smell. If you love coconut, I feel like this is the sort of tea flavour that would really appeal. I love coconut, but if not, then it's probably one to steer clear of. But without further ado, let's give it a try. That is nice. I feel like the flavour that is predominant there is the coconut. It basically just tastes like warm, sweet coconut milk, which in my opinion is a lovely thing to try, and particularly feels quite soothing for me now that I'm not feeling so well. The chocolate flavour, I'm sure, would get stronger the longer that you left the tea bag in to steep. I probably left it for maybe between 5 and 10 minutes. I didn't time it, I just kind of waited until the milk had started to turn a slightly more browny tea colour, I guess. Not very appealing to say out loud, but I didn't really time it. But I think if you left the tea bag in there longer, or even just kept it in as you were drinking it, then you would definitely get more of the chocolatey flavour. I seem to recall that from any of the just normal tea bag teas that had any chocolate flavour in. The smell was there, but the flavour definitely took a lot longer to come out, and you had to definitely leave the tea to steep longer, and it was the sort of flavour that you would grab towards the end of the cup once you'd left the tea bag in for a lot longer. And also as the drink cooled, I feel like the chocolatey flavour feels more obvious, whereas the coconut is just there right from the start. But luckily, as I say, I really like coconut, so that is a success in my opinion. So there we go. Going to enjoy this, and I've been watching the Great British Sewing Bee, so I've got an episode of that on in the background whilst I drink my tea, and then I shall get on with some more reading of A December to Remember. to admit I've been a little bit more distracted from reading than I had anticipated, but I am slowly but surely, well, not even that slowly, I'm definitely making my way through the book. I'm now on page 286 and this book has pretty much 400 pages, so I'm so close to the end now, and it is my biggest hope and dream to finish this book today, and I think that is definitely an achievable ambition. But the thing that has been distracting me, and if I'm honest will continue to distract me, is the contents of this bag, which is my sock knitting project bag. Specifically, the pair of socks that has been taking up my focus and attention is this pair of socks. You saw the finished first sock a couple of weeks ago, and I have now finally managed to finish off the pairs. This is my first ever pair of knitted socks, and although there are many a flaw in these pair of socks, I am so proud and excited to have finished a whole pair of socks. It just feels like such an achievement. And these are the socks that I'm calling my raspberry ripple socks because of the beautiful pink like speckling through the white main colour, and I'm really happy with them, really am. First ever pair, and it can only get better from here, but I have finished a pair of socks, which is ever so exciting in my opinion, and I've already started my next sock, which I'm possibly even more excited about because of the yarn that I've gotten. So back in, I think it was the beginning of November, we went away for Jay's birthday and we went to Riga in Latvia. We'd never been before, and naturally, going to a new city, I decided to see if there were any yarn shops around, and there was this one yarn shop that I ended up going to twice in our 2-day trip, and it was called Woolly, and I loved it. I ended up getting myself a new pair of needles because I hadn't brought any knitting with me, and also this yarn I absolutely love, and here it is in all of its glory. I've got the socks stuck in, so this is the new pair of socks that I've started, and then a little close-up of this yarn. It is just so beautiful. I really liked in my first pair of socks the fact that it was like a base white colour but with some colour speckled in. I love pastel colours, and when I saw this like creamy background colour with loads of pastel speckled through, I just had to pick it up. For me, I think there's a sweet, I don't know if it's a UK sweet only or if it's sold more widely, but it is called a flump, and it is like a really delicious, I haven't had one in probably well over 15 years, I will have had them as a child, but I recall them to be delicious, and they are this like twisty long marshmallow with loads of like pastel-y colours in. So I saw this and immediately said that this was like marshmallow yarn, and these will be my marshmallow socks when they are done. So I'm very, very happy to have picked this up and have myself a little keepsake from our little mini trip to Latvia in the form of some yarn to knit some socks with. So knitting aside, back to the book, I will say that although the cover of this book definitely looks very festive, and it is of course called A December to Remember, Christmas definitely is like on the back foot in this story, and it happens to be taking place in December. And there is a little bit of a focus on winter solstice, but I would say aside from that, festivity isn't really like a main focal point of the book. It really is about these three sisters, their individual problems, and the fact that their lives are better when they come back together and work collectively as a unit. So I'm enjoying it, don't get me wrong. I will say that I think this book probably could have been shorter because it does feel like some of these issues, like one of the sisters has a little bit of like a complex around relationships and rejection. Another one of them doesn't really have much self-esteem, and the other one is like hides her emotional turmoil in the form of being like rude and nasty to people to kind of hide her own discomfort. And I feel like those issues that they each face are kind of a bit repetitive, and we kind of see them making a little bit of progress and then backpedaling, and it feels as though it's like just taking you away from the conclusion that you're inevitably going to reach, but without really giving you much extra, because we already get the point that they're dealing with these issues. But aside from that, I am enjoying it. I will say that of the three sisters, the youngest one, who's called Star, I enjoy her storyline the most, and she has this interaction with the guy who's teaching her how to knit, which obviously I am enjoying. But all three of them are interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how it ends. But I don't know what I'm going to read after this, because I can't quite decide whether or not to focus on another festive book or just to throw myself into something new and try to get another favourite book read before the end of the year, because I really do want to get a few more books ticked off, and I feel like finding something new that really tickles my fancy, like I did with I Hope It Finds You Well, is obviously only going to help me to get closer to that reading goal. So that said, I'm going to focus on this book first, and then we'll cross the bridge of what to read next when I'm finished with this one. This book took me a lot longer than I expected it to, but I did manage to finish A December to Remember last night. I enjoyed the book, but like I said earlier, wasn't as Christmassy and festive as I'd expected from the cover and the title. It was a nice cutesy book, but it wasn't like overly Christmassy, and I wanted like Hallmark movie vibes. I enjoyed the book and the characters, however there were some parts where I just felt like was dragging it out for too long, and I kind of just wanted them to get to the point, because it was just, I think with books like this, you're never going to be overly surprised by the ending. You always kind of roughly know what direction it's going to go in, and so when they're kind of like dragging it out and making things last way longer than they need to, it just feels a little bit frustrating. Whereas with a book that might be a little bit less predictable, that sort of thing doesn't feel as annoying, because it can all be contributing to the plot and you actually genuinely don't know what's going to happen. So any sort of like diversions could genuinely be meaningful to where the characters end up. Whereas in sort of romance books like this, I feel like that's not so necessary, and I understand they need to create a little bit of tension. But in this book, it kind of felt like it went back and forth a few too many times for my liking, given that we kind of knew where it was going to end up. I did enjoy it all the same though, and I'm glad to have read at least one festive book this December. Wasn't quite the festive reading bonanza that I anticipated from this weekend, but I have done a lot of knitting, so I'm considering that to be a win. Now today is the 21st of December, so it's the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, or longest, yeah, shortest day, longest night, which means that it's nearly 9 AM and it's barely even light outside currently. It's kind of chilly, but otherwise just very grey and gloomy, so no spectacular winter solstice sunrise or sunset to see, I don't think, but still gonna have a fun festive day, because I'm going out with Sarah this morning for our annual friendmas. I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing, but I know that it starts with coffee, which is of course the most important thing, so I'll catch up with you later on when I'm back. The wind has not been kind to me today. It's so wildly windy outside. The winter weather is coming in, but not the kind of winter weather that makes you feel very Christmassy, but rather the kind of winter weather that feels like you are being beaten up every time you open your front door. But I'm back home now. Jay is downstairs starting a fire, so it's all about to be very, very cozy for this evening. And I thought that before I finish up this vlog, I would commit myself to the next book that I'm planning to read, and that is actually returning back to the book that I was actually reading at the very beginning of December and felt like I wasn't having much momentum with, and that is A Discovery of Witches. I started this book at the beginning of November and I made it to page 182, so I feel like I was just very slowly meandering through this book. I wasn't building up a lot of momentum and it felt like I wasn't feeling really invested in the story, but this year has been such a year of fantasy for me, and I feel like I do want to give this book one more good go and just like really try and lose myself in the story. And now that I've finished work for the year and I'm on the Christmas break, it just feels like the perfect time to get lost in a cozy fantasy. So that is the next book that I'm going to be picking up, and I will of course take you along for the journey in the next vlog. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.